Good day. Thank you very much for joining me today on the another one of these knowledge area webinars. Today, I'm going to try and keep it as short and to the point as possible. What I'm going to be talking about is integrating a South African standard into your Primavera P6 EPPM environment. What I'm going to be talking about is what they call the OFO, the Organizational Framework of Occupations. And it's a South African standard which we could use as roles within P6 EPPM. Let me explain the organizational framework of occupations a little more, what it is, the structure, and where it comes from, and then I'll show you what it looks like in P6. So the OFO itself is a classification system, a coding, a structure of both occupations in terms of specialization and skill level. So it's a grouping structure of what you and I would expect as your email address, what you would say in your signature as whatever you're, a project manager, a database administrator, etc., etc. And it's a classification and coding in a structure of these occupations. It sets up the specialization and skill level, where the specialization is built based on the field of knowledge. Or, for instance, the tools or the assets used in that task. Or, for instance, the materials, the bulk materials or specialized materials used for that task, or the outcome in terms of the goods and services that are provided as a result of those tasks. And the associated skill level is based off these tasks' complexity, the required education, training, years of experience, etc. So it's as you would think of it as a structure of role that you would assign to tasks. And for those of you who know P6 and have planned projects in P6, I think you already know where I'm going with this. Let's just look back in time and where it actually comes from. And in 2003, our Department of Labor decided that if they were going to grow the national skill level of occupations, they would need to have a standard library, a data dictionary of occupations. And they started to look around. It had the South African standards classifications for occupations, but it was very basic. As you can see, there was around 600 occupations only, and with those 600, very, very little detail about each occupation. So what they did was they looked around, and the CETAs got together and decided to use the developments and the structures that came from New Zealand and then Australia. And they call the Australia, New Zealand, our mates across the water, call it the ANZ SCO. And the final product was the South African Organizational Framework of Occupations. So they took the Australian and the New Zealand ones, let's call it South Africanized it, and changed it slightly to suit South Africa, and came up with the OFO coding. I mentioned CETA for those of you who don't know what CETA is. CETA is our sector education and training authority, and basically it's a group of individuals, whether it be employers, from government and NGOs, that got together in a particular sector. So an SETA for each sector that manages their education and training for that sector. And we have a lot of them. So when we talk about the sector, we talk about the verticals, the industries. We've got agriculture CETAs, we've got energy CETAs, we've got health CETAs, insurance services, wholesale and retail CETAs. And if you wanted the OFO codes for your particular CETA, you should jump on Google, know what your industry is, search it up. So, for instance, I'll look for the manufacturing, engineering, related services CETA, contact them, and you can go and get your specific OFO structure for your sector. Right, so that's the history and what it is. Let's now look at the structure. So I'm taking this from the Department of Higher Education and Training's publication. I'm actually using the 2013 version. And you're most welcome to go down there and have a look at it, and gives you the guidelines in terms of the OFO, but you still need to go and get the actual physical structure from your sector. And it's broken down into these 5 groups. So when we talk about these 5 groups, we're talking about not the different types of occupations. We're talking about the parent-child relationship. And with these 5, you'll see there's 4 groupings which finally end up on the occupation. This might be a bit small to read this. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to expand each grouping itself, starting with major group. But focusing on that one, we know it is the first level, and it's very, very broad. It covers everything, which means that you would start with major group if you're trying to find a particular occupation. And then through the groupings, you'd be able to find and drill down into that specific and find the specific occupation you look for. And it is the first digit in the code. So if we look at it, we say what I've come up with is major dot, which would be the first number dot and then stop there. So we'd look for instance, a manager. You'd start with the managerial from the major group and then go down to the next one. In this case, we've got examples: skilled agricultural, forest and fishery and craft, and related trades. So that specific major group, you would then use that example then to go to the next level. So let's go to the next level and you see how this builds on. So now we're going to focus on the sub-major groups. And it is a subdivision, a child of the major. And it is the second digit code, so major dot submajor, or x.x. And there are 39 options within the submajor groups. So you pick the major, and then through 39 options below that, pick the submajor, each respective to the own major group. Let's take the next one, minor. And now we can start to go and start to get more specific about who we're looking for in our OFO structure. And it is the third digit grouping, so major dot submajor dot minor, all the 3 X's. And there are 125 within this level of grouping. The next one is the unit group, and this is the final grouping, the final level of grouping before we get to the occupation, and it's the 4th digit. And this is obviously it's a subdivision of minor, subdivision of submajor, and obviously subdivision of the major. 440 of them, and it is the 4th digit in the structure. So major, submajor, minor, and then unit. Which brings me to the final one, where you would select the specific occupation here below, and there are 1,448 of them. It is the 6th digit of them. And now it distinguishes one occupation from another one in a different structure completely. One thing you do need to remember is that it is a very broad structure. So for instance, I'll take myself as an example. As the country manager for Milestone South Africa, my occupation suggests it should be country manager, but you're not going to find that. You're going to find a managerial occupation. And a country manager is just a specialization of this particular occupation. And they have made provision for specializations in the structure. But for P6, we're going to stop at the occupation. Otherwise, it gets very, very difficult and too much information. But there you would understand the final occupation, the general occupation for whatever you require a task to perform, and you'll be able to identify the skill sets from that structure. And then obviously you have the code identifier for it. The way that they've detailed it out in terms of responsibility, they put managers, professionals, and technicians on the same level. A level below that, they put clerical, service, skilled, and operators underneath, and followed by the elementary occupations. So basically what you're looking at is the first list of the major grouping. What we've done in P6 is, obviously this becomes a bit complicated to do that in P6, so particularly when you're rolling up all your hours to a single level, single line of entry, we put them one on top of the other, and then there'll be sub-majors, minors, and unit groups underneath that. So if we look at it in that fashion, you've got your majors, professionals, technicians, and then it goes on to clerical, service, skilled, operators, and then your elementaries. What they also have done is they made provision for the green occupations, so which they would find as an occupation that is a green type occupation, and a specific trade for that occupation. and the skill levels based on an international classification. All right, I think you've got the basic idea of this. If you want more information, do go on to the Department of Higher Education's website, go to the publications section and download the guideline for the OFO. But obviously you would need to get your exact coding classification from the particular sector, and usually it's provided to you in the form of a Microsoft Office Excel document. Therefore, most users have Excel, and they can get these codes and structures from the particular sectors. I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to show you the good part, and that's how to integrate this into P6. So let's go along to our P6 environment, and I'm going to log on. So what you're looking at here, for those who don't know, I am logging on to a installation of Primavera P6 EPPM, Enterprise Primavera Portfolio Management. It is a project management application as an enterprise, therefore still installed on one server with many users connecting it. In this case, the service it's in London, and I'm connecting it from South Africa. It's just for us Milestone guys fortunate to connect to it. You could also use the professional client, either enterprise, or you can have it standalone. So the common, more traditional version of P6 Professional with the 32-bit Windows client, you could still use the OFO codes. However, you're not going to benefit as much as you will with the web. And particularly one of the reasons is this here is the dashboards, and the other one is portfolios. You don't have that in Professional client. So I'm not saying you cannot use it, I'm just saying you won't have the same benefit. Right, what I'm going to do is show you the OFO codes in P6. And what we've done is we have uploaded I think we took it from the services CETA. We took their structure and we put it into P6. I think most of the sector structures are more or less the same, so it's not going to vary too much. I would obviously suggest you check with your particular sector. But here we have, I've got equipment here, you can ignore that one. I've got my OFO codes for my human role. And there we are, there's the major groups, the 8 of them. Managers, professionals, technicians, clerical, service, skilled, operators, assemblers, and then finally your elementary. So the structure is built into P6. It's a single library which everyone can pull from. Now, I can go through to anyone. So let's take, I don't know, sales and service. And I go down to my SubMajor groups. And I've made the grouping with square brackets, which tells the end user whenever they're assigning a role to a task not to use this level. They need to use from the occupation level. So let's go find that. So under groups of personal and service workers, I'm going to look at cooks, for example. And then I'm going to have cooks as a unit group. And finally, my occupation without brackets, cook. Very general, there's not much to choose from there, but as you can see, it does cater from ICT, shop vendors, to cooks, to health and safety, security, agriculture, etc. So it is quite a broad range of occupations. And yeah, that's it. Obviously, the question you might be asking is, well, so what? What are the benefits of doing this? Well, as the role structure from P6 is a central library of roles to plan projects. If you are a planner or you've been planning projects in P6 or even with any other software, for example, you really should be following the rule of you plan with roles and you execute resources. It's a guideline. If somebody gives you a fully resource-loaded schedule, you should actually throw it away. When they mean a fully resourced schedule, what they're trying to actually say is that you've a fully role-loaded schedule. You need to prove that you, as a responsible planner, have planned this project in terms of time, in terms of cost, and effort. And you do the effort with roles. The planner then hands the project over to the project manager, and says, right, now go and staff those, go and find the resources to perform those roles. And that in P6 we call staffing, and there's actually dashboard pages and other pages in P6 that help the project managers select the right resources from the unstaffed allocations. Let me give you an example of all of this. So I want to go to a project. I need to make a disclaimer that the information that you're about to see is completely fictional. Not one bit of it is true in terms of the sample data that I'm showing you. So I'm taking this well-made-up project called the Console Glass Plant Expansion and Modernization Project. Let's assume for a minute that a planner has gone along and planned it and handed it over to me and said that we need to look at ways to shorten the project duration before we get going, because the client is not happy about the time it's taking for us to do the project. One of the first things I'm going to do is, and I think this was probably most of you will know this, is we need to focus on the critical activities. Critical activities, any delay to one of the critical activities will push out the project end date. Therefore, by minimizing the activities on a critical path, I'm effectively making the end date earlier than what has been currently being planned. So what I'm doing is I've created a view in P6 for my critical path. So I've filtered out activities from the complete schedule just for that are critical. So you'll see there's a lot of gaps in here. And then I started to go through it and have a look at the schedule. And I was going through looking at how would I improve the schedule. And I looked at this installed conveyors. So I've got conveyors 211, 212, 213, and 214. And I see that they're taking just over 2 months, which is probably a long time. And it's taking up most of the project schedule. So what I could do is look at improving these activities by either shortening the duration, changing the calendar to work more hours per day, starting them in parallel and finishing them in parallel, or throwing more resources at it. Now, I'm not resource loading the schedule. I don't know which person I'm physically going to use to install the conveyor, so I'm roll loading at the moment. I've done one here, so I'm going to do one over here. And this part would take you would need an experienced planner. An experienced planner would know that for a conveyor, you're looking at around, and I know the planning fraternity is going to jump down my neck on this, probably about 20 man hours per metric ton of conveyor installation for under 10 meters. But I still got to look at pulleys, I still got to look at idlers, I still got to look at lengths of the conveyors, the splices, etc., etc. So let's not go into that. It's a bit of a craft itself, and I'm now just going to go and install and allocate roles to my schedule. So I'll go and assign a role on this particular activity, and I'm presented with this. I now have the option now to go back to my CETA, download the Excel spreadsheet from them, and run a search through the Excel spreadsheet to find the particular person we're looking for. Or I could use a search function and type in install assembler. And I could find my machinery assembler. Or if I didn't know the name of the person or the type of occupation I wanted to find, I could go through the structure. In this case, I'd look through the list and I'd find machine operators and assemblers. That makes most sense. What are my options as submajors? I've got stationary plant and machine operators, driver and mobile plant operators, and then I have assemblers. Let's go down to the minor. So there's not much choice there, it's just assemblers. I've got machinery assemblers not elsewhere classified, in other words what they're saying, other, or electronic and electrical equipment assemblers. And because conveyor is a mechanical equipment designed to move equipment, I would use the machinery. What are my options there? Machinery assembler, very simple, assign and close. So very easy to use, very easy to find what you need. It's all structured in a taxonomy of occupations that allow me to find exactly what I need. And at the point at which I'm finished and I've planned the work and I've reduced the duration because I can do, only 8 hours per day, I can now do 16 hours per day, so I could halve this duration. If I added another assembler, I can now take that information and give it over to the project manager to go and find the machine assemblers. And the benefit of it is that, and I'm going to take you over to the dashboard now, is that now the project manager needs to go and find the people to do the particular set of work. And using the different views in P6, the project manager, he or she, can decide whether they have enough resources in the organization, yes or no, to perform that work at that period. Because the statement, how many people do I need, is in itself flawed. I need to know how many people do I need, when, for how long. Okay? And now we can see, just by looking at this one here, I need a construction project manager on this project. I have staffed 867 hours of that project. However, I'm 240 hours short. I don't have to do any fancy calculations. I don't have to do any guesswork. It's been given to me. Now, if I'm working as the project manager, I know that I need to find a construction project planner. So now I can look at it, and where do I need it? I need it on this activity in that project. Goodwear Staffing Living Center, on that activity between there or that amount. So now I can go and assign the resource. And because I've gone now and assigned my roles to my resources, well, I've said this particular resource in my organization can perform those roles from the OFO classifications. P6 automatically knows which resources can and cannot work as a construction manager. In this case, I don't have any. At this point, I need to go and contact my HRM department and say, we don't have any resources to do the project managing, construction project management. And it's all now through a process, and you don't have to worry about Excel spreadsheets, long-winded emails, or expensive meetings to figure this all out. It's all done in the system for you. Another benefit now is that I can take, not just from a project point of view, I can look at my capacity in terms of a portfolio or the entire organization if need be. So now I'm going to go and look at how much do I need into the future. And most importantly, because it's from an OFO classification, meaning an outside classification that is a national standard, when I give this over to my HRM department and say, we don't have enough people, please go and hire a construction project manager, they know exactly who to get, because from that structure, from the OFO classification, it tells me the skill set, the requirement, and the description of that occupation. So there's no more emails between the project manager and the HRM department. They know exactly what they need to do. They need to go out and they need to hire these people. So now I can see my capacity, and if I look at it, let's look at it more role-based. So you can see I need a lot of construction projects. I know this information is very fictitious, but you can get the idea from here. And that is that can save you a lot of hassles, a lot of discussions, if you want to call it, between your different departments within your organization, and you can all plan better by having a standard list within your organization in your project management software. And then you can do various reports. You can even take this information, if you're a large organization, you have a lot of numbers that you can justify. You can take it to the Department of Higher Education and say, there is a major shortage of construction project managers in this country. Mr. Department of Higher Education, or Mrs., what are you doing about it? What classes are you making available in the universities? What are you going to do to make sure that we can provide this country with enough construction project managers? And by using a standard classification, you speak the same language as them. All right. In terms of the resources, yeah, please do get hold of us. We can get this structure into your enterprise project management P6 EPPM environment quite quickly. There is a little bit of work just to manage the transition from your current role structures into the OFO structure. It's not too difficult. We'll make sure all your projects are summarized, and then we'll delete from your current list and assign the applicable OFO. It's quite simple to do done in P6, but give us a shot and we could help you get that done for you or with you. Please do feel free to jump on our website, www.milestonesA.co.za. Click on the contact us icon, send us an email, give us a call, and we could certainly help you out from there. Thank you very much for taking the time, and enjoy the rest of the day. Good day.